Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, and with, I suppose, enhanced significance since the news that Rishi Sunak is actively pushing for closer relationships with the EU, I'd like to discuss the Supreme Court's decision last week that the Northern Ireland Protocol is, do you know what, perfectly legal. What anti-protocol unionists are trying to say about the decision, but how all this leaves them with no credible chance of success now, no matter how much they try and froth. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So a group of people representing various different Brexit loony bins has been trying to get the court to declare the Northern Ireland Protocol unlawful on the basis that it contradicts part of the Act of Union regarding Northern Ireland. Previous courts have tried to explain to them very patiently, I thought, that legislation can supersede earlier legislation, not quite common, and that the protocol is perfectly lawful. But they kept on with their appeals. No, but there's this law from 200 years ago. It must take precedence. Must it? Why? Because we like it. Okay. But now the appeals have run their course. The case was finally heard in the Supreme Court, the final arbiter on matters of UK constitutional law. Unsurprisingly, the Supreme Court has said, do you know what? All these other judges got it dead right. They've said the same thing. It's lawful. Go away. Those who brought the case are saying that this decision proves they were right. This might seem odd for people outside the UK, but it's hardly the first time people involved in politics in this country have claimed that they have won the argument after losing spectacularly. It's just how things work on our eccentric little part of the world. But this really does leave their attempts to bin the protocol dead and buried. There are only two ways to have the protocol removed: the legal route and the political route. The legal route is now closed. There's nowhere to take the case now that the Supreme Court has passed judgment. That is the end of it. They can try and argue that it's a breach of EU law if they fancy going to the European Court of Justice for a laugh, but I'm not sure they will. So there is now only the political route. Unfortunately, although you cannot categorically say that this route is definitely closed off, I think you'd have to be a little bit deluded not to see that actually it is. But then these are Brexiteers, and the DUP are certainly pushing ahead with the political path. The problem is they just don't live in the real world. Perhaps part of the problem is that the DUP used to have influence with the Westminster government and now they don't. The Conservatives don't really care about Northern Ireland. They don't care about any part of the country as it happens, but they don't even really pretend to care much about Northern Ireland. They don't win seats there. They have to at least pretend to care about the parts of the country where they hope to win the seats needed to form a government. But this does not extend to Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland's representation in Westminster doesn't take the form of MPs who may form a government. It takes the form of MPs who can present a case and make an argument. They have a voice. But the DUP are not making any coherent argument. Where they have influence, where they have more than a voice, the ability to actually inform decision making is in Stormont. But you'll never guess. They had this master plan, which was to collapse the assembly and remove their only source of influence. I seem to recall seeing a suggestion that some in the DUP think that they need to find a way back to re-establishing the Stormont executive, and that this path, they recognise that this path will not run across the shattered remains of the protocol. But if that is true, and I've no idea, it's clear that view is not widely held enough in the party because their official position is to remain on strike, only they get full pay. Let me make it really simple. Let us consider the timeline here. So in the here and now, the Conservative government do not want to dissolve the protocol. Yes, an influential faction within the party do. But if this was holding sway, the government would be putting their head down and charging the protocol bill through Parliament with all speed. And this isn't just Sunak. Boris Johnson balked at the idea of facing the loss of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement in retaliation, and he hastily changed course in late 2021. The Conservatives do not want to disable the main function of the protocol because they do not want the trade war that would come as a result of it. In the context of this weekend's news that Sunak is actively bringing people together in order to work on ways to work more closely with the EU, it is even clearer that the government are simply not interested in dissolving the protocol. As I said earlier today, Sunak's conference and plans to work more closely with the EU would be a complete waste of time if he forces a trade war by either going ahead with the retained EU law bill, as it's currently written anyway, or making any unilateral moves to removing protocol checks. Of course, we know that Sunak's authority within the parliamentary party is shaky at best, or so it appears. He is facing direct challenges from both Boris Johnson and Truss's allies. So let's say that forces within the Conservative Party ranged against Sunak to force him down the anti-protocol path. This makes no sense in the context of the news this weekend, but let us say it did. It's politics. Politics is crazy. Let's say some weird, alignment of the stars forced Sunak to unilaterally stop all protocol checks using the bill once it's passed into law. He can't do it now because the courts would just say no. What then? For a start, the bill is still passing through Parliament, so it probably couldn't be done until summer. It could mean finding ourselves without the limited protection of the Trading Cooperation Agreement just in time for all the Christmas trade to ramp up as exporters are doing most of their business. How's that going to help our fragile economy? How's it going to do it any good at all? What's that going to do to Sunak's plans to be claiming that he's steering us through an economically turbulent time? The Tories would further decimate their reputation for economic competence. They would then be forced into a humiliating U-turn and reapply the protocol checks. What have the DUP won then? Nothing, other than the cold shoulder from even the Tories for making them do such a bloody stupid thing. But then let's say the Tories go completely doolally. So they do all this, and then even when they should U-turn, they commit to it. They go, no, we've done it now. We're just going to charge ahead. No protocol in place. It's 2024 now. The year of the general election. Labour win, and they put it back again. And that is absolutely certain. Whatever small amount of influence the DUP have with kindred spirits in the Conservative Party does not exist in Labour at all, especially since Kate Hoey buggered off. There's absolutely zero chance that the DUP are going to achieve the dissolution of the protocol for the long term, and almost zero chance that it even happens in the short term. In trying to drive a wedge between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which is all they care about, all they're doing is driving a wedge between their region and the rest of the UK. There's a reason why I think Republicans don't particularly need to raise the heat much for their campaign for reunification. They don't need to. The DUP and their friends are doing a much better job than they could ever do. I've said before, the DUP and other unionists are missing a trick with the protocol. See, they say it's driving Northern Ireland from the UK. There is a bit of a wedge between Northern Ireland and Britain. How could there not be? There's now trade friction on exports of some goods from Britain to Northern Ireland. But it does also strengthen Northern Ireland's place in the UK. And if that sounds like it's a bit of a contradiction, I mean, the way Northern Ireland works can sometimes be a bit weird. The protocol allows businesses in Northern Ireland to export to both the EU single market and the British market without hindrance. If the protocol is dissolved, they lose the frictionless trade with the EU. If Ireland reunifies, they lose the frictionless exports to Britain. Only with the current political situation do they basically get the best of both worlds, or at least 75% of both worlds. It's a competitive advantage that the DUP, with their blinkered ideology, are actively seeking to destroy. And that same blinkered ideology prevents them seeing that their routes to stopping the protocol are now blocked off. The legal route, as I say, is clearly ended now. They must see that. But there's no credible political route either. If they had any clear view of reality, they would be working on an alternative strategy now, which cannot involve trying to derail the protocol because it's impossible. It would have to be working on a practical solution that they can then claim, oh, actually, now we're happy with this. Oh, yeah, this is total sovereignty. Oh, it's made of solid 24-karat gold sovereignty. Yeah, we're quite happy with this now. Maybe some in the party are. Maybe they just need to let their more obstinate brethren burn themselves out until the political reality is undeniable to all. I see the Stormont election has been put back yet again. An indication that the Conservatives are not contemplating further unilateral action on the protocol. I've seen some suggestions that the protocol deal is essentially done. It's really just a case of getting the ERG on board with it now. Still, easier said than done if Sunak does not want to throw them a bone in the form of something else that will trigger a trade war. Unless the ERG are made to see that their political influence has only got limited time left, and other Tory MPs aren't really minded to let them use that limited time to consign them to opposition for a generation. But although the ERG still have some elbows to influence the political path now, the DUP do not. I mean, they're meeting with their kindred spirits in the ERG, but words is all they have. They've got no power. Their only power is in Stormont, and they turn that down. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.